Adventures of Ellen White and the Pioneers. Little Lights Around the World.
One day in 1869, a tall young man got off the train in Battle Creek. All the other passengers disappeared quickly, leaving the stranger looking all around but saying nothing. Finally he stepped up to the window of the railway station and handed the station master an envelope on which was written J. N. Andrews, Battle Creek, Michigan. "Where are you going?" asked the station master. The tall stranger could only smile and point to the envelope. Then the man realized that the stranger could not understand or speak English. So he asked a friend to take the young man to the Review and Herald office. The stranger did not find John Andrews at the office, but he did meet Elder James White, who greeted him in such a friendly way that it could be understood in any language. The stranger's name was Jacques Erzberger. Elder White took Mr. Erzberger home with him and sent for a French brother to come and interpret for him. "This man," said the interpreter, "has come all the way from Switzerland with only this envelope to guide him. He brings greetings from a group of about 50 Sabbath keepers in Switzerland. He has come to America to learn more about the Sabbath message." This was good news to the Adventists in Battle Creek. They were happy to know that the message of God was spreading to other countries far away. Elder and Mrs. White were anxious to teach him more about the Bible, but Mr. Erzberger must first be taught some English so that he could talk with the family. Elder White invited John Kellogg, a worker in the Review office, to live with him and teach English to the stranger from Switzerland. Willie White was 15 years old at the time, and he wanted to help also. Every day he took Mr. Erzberger around the house, pointing to different objects and saying, "This is a table. This is a chair. This is a flower. This is the Bible." This method was successful, and Mr. Erzberger learned quickly. By the end of 5 weeks he was able to speak and also could be understood in English. Later he even spoke at camp meetings. Mr. Erzberger stayed in America about a year and a half and then returned to Switzerland to teach his people the wonderful new truths that he had learned. And before he left, he begged the church to please send a missionary to teach the people in Europe. But the church had no money to send a missionary with him at that time, so he left with a promise that a teacher would be sent just as soon as possible. A missionary to a foreign land. This was a new challenge to the Adventist church. But that would cost a lot of money to send a missionary way across the ocean, and it seemed almost impossible. But what seems impossible with men can be possible with God. Mark 10, verse 27 says, "With men it is impossible, but not with God, for with God all things are possible." 1 year went by, 2 years. 3 years went by, and still no missionary had been sent to fulfill the promise made to Jacques Erzberger. Finally, in 1874, almost 4 years after Jacques Erzberger had returned to Switzerland, the General Conference showed its concern by voting to send the first missionary to a foreign country. They could not overlook the command that Jesus himself had given in Matthew 28, verses 19 to 20. "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world." Who was this first missionary to go to a foreign country? It was John N. Andrews, the same name that had been on the envelope that had guided Jacques Erzberger from Switzerland to America. And Switzerland was the very first place chosen to be our very first foreign mission. Elder Andrews' wife had died about 2 years before, but he was still willing to go and take his 2 children, Charles and Mary. They told their friends goodbye and they sailed away on a ship named the Atlas on September 14, 1874. After Elder Andrews had started the work in Switzerland, he wrote to Elder and Mrs. White, telling them of the great need for money to carry on the new mission in Europe. Many of the people were not interested in giving their money to send way across the ocean to help people they did not even know. But Elder and Mrs. White were anxious to help all they could. Someone had given Mrs. White a beautiful silk dress, but she said that she could not enjoy wearing such an expensive dress when she knew about the great need of the new mission in Europe. So Mrs. White took the dress to a store and asked the merchant to sell it for her for as much as possible, because the money was to be used to help send the gospel across the ocean. He was able to sell the dress for $50, and Mrs. White sent the money to Elder Andrews for the new mission. When others heard that Mrs. White had sacrificed an expensive silk dress for the new mission, they had a change of heart, and they gave also, thus making it possible for many people in Europe to learn about the truth of God. January 4, 1875 was to be an important date in Battle Creek, Michigan. That was the day for the dedication of the first Seventh-day Adventist college in the world. Some people were complaining about this new college. Why should we spend money for a college, they asked. Jesus is coming soon, and there's not enough time to educate ministers. Just as that time, many people everywhere were very sick with the flu. Mrs. White had also been sick with the flu. She had worked so hard in taking care of others that she herself had become too tired, and she also got sick. Elder White knew that Mrs. White had some important messages to give to the ministers and church leaders who were also here for some special ministerial meetings, so he asked some of the elders to come and have a special prayer for her recovery. Mrs. White was wrapped in warm blankets and taken downstairs into the living room. Elder White and the other men prayed earnestly that God would heal her for the meetings. Then Mrs. White began to pray. Her voice was a bit scratchy and in a whisper. And then suddenly her voice became very clear and loud as they all recognized those familiar words, "Glory to God, glory to God, glory to God." The others looked up and saw that she was having a vision. Her face had a troubled look upon it, and she stood up. She threw aside the blankets and she started walking back and forth in the room. And with hands outstretched and face looking upwards, she began to speak, "Dark, dark, all dark, so dark," she cried. And then there was a moment of silence. And then her face became brighter and she exclaimed, "A light, a light, more light, much light." She did not tell what she had seen in the vision right then, but she had been healed in answer to the very special prayers. And that night she walked with Elder White through the snow to the meeting. And the next morning she told the people about the vision that she had had at the time when she was healed. God had revealed to her the dark condition of the world spiritually. She saw that the Seventh-day Adventists had a great work to do in the foreign countries. She had seen little groups of Sabbath keepers all over the world. She saw that the church must send ministers to these places, and that the publishing work must start printing tracts and books and papers telling of the seventh-day Sabbath and of the soon coming of Jesus. The men who had complained about the new college were surprised to hear Mrs. White say that plans must be made to educate many young men as home missionaries and also many as foreign missionaries. Now the ministers could understand what she had meant by the little lights beginning to shine all around the world. She had seen darkness everywhere, but as ministers, teachers, doctors, nurses, coal porters, printers, and other workers were sent out, the little lights of truth would begin to shine here and there. Publishing houses would help to spread the truth so that people all over the world could read this message in their own language. After this important vision, the General Conference was happy that they had exercised faith and had sent Elder J.N. Andrews as its first missionary to a foreign country a few months before. The Adventists became more and more interested in the work of foreign missions. Mrs. White gave many messages from God to the church about the importance of teaching this truth to the people of other lands. But the strongest message came from Jesus himself when he said, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." The first little light went on in 1874 when Elder J.N. Andrews went to Switzerland. The second light went on in 1876 when Brother Bordeaux went to France. The third light went on in 1877 when Brother Mattisson went to Denmark. And the fourth light went on in 1885 when Brother Haskell went to Australia. Come and join us next time to hear about a vision at a funeral.